You ever get this weird feeling like we're just drowning in time travel and parallel universe stories these days? Like, seriously, they're everywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, right?
So, in our deep dive today, we're going to try to figure out what's got us all obsessed with these themes. And spoiler alert, it's not just about wanting to escape reality.
Right. There's something deeper going on there for sure.
We're diving deep into episode 8 of the Technomage podcast. They really went there with this idea.
Oh, yeah. The Technomage always brings the insightful takes. They made a fascinating connection in this one. You know how they tied these fictional concepts like time travel and parallel universes to climate change?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
It's like they're saying all our obsession with these stories is actually a big flashing sign of how anxious we are about the future, especially with the climate change looming over everything.
Okay, so break that down for me a bit. How does climate change fit into all of this?
Well, just think about it. Climate change, it's this massive, overwhelming problem, right? And these stories with their time machines and alternate realities, they offer us this super tempting out. It's like, what if we could just hit a cosmic reset button or find a reality where we made different choices?
Right, right. It's like a cosmic get out of jail free card.
I,
But something else that really struck me when I was listening to the Technomage was this idea of a lack of models in our present reality. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what they meant by that.
oh, yeah, that's a good way. Okay, so imagine this.
Sure.
Your ancestors, way back when,
Mm.
they're dealing with a terrible drought.
Right.
They got all these stories passed down through generations, tales of past hardships and how they survived them. But when it comes to climate change, we're in completely uncharted territory. This is something humanity's never dealt with on this scale before. We don't have those historical models to draw from, those tried and true solutions. So naturally, we start looking elsewhere, like fiction, these what-if scenarios, to fill that void.
Ah, I see. So instead of looking back in time for solutions, we're sort of looking to fictional futures.
Exactly.
Okay, that's starting to make sense now.
And this is where the Technomage episode gets really, really interesting. They made this point that it's not even just about like literally finding solutions to climate change. It's more about this deeper human need for hope and agency when we're faced with these huge, scary challenges. We want to believe we can make a difference, right?
Mm.
And these stories, they give us that. They show us characters who have the power to change things.
So it's less about escaping into these stories and more about finding something in them that we can bring back to reality, something to hold on to.
Exactly. It's about finding hope, inspiration, maybe even a new sense of purpose.
Oh, I get it. Like, it's almost like we're hardwired for these stories, especially when things feel so uncertain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting. The Technomage actually connected this whole thing to AI.
Wait, AI, hold up. I thought we were talking about time travel and parallel universes here. How
Yeah.
does AI even fit into all of this?
It's all connected, trust me. So think about it this way. Time travel, it's like we're trying to explore different paths in the past and future, right?
Yeah.
Like, what if we did this or that? Well, AI, it's gotten doing something similar, but in the present. Like, we're using AI to build models of different scenarios, right? Trying to analyze tons of data, looking for those solutions to these super complex problems like, you guessed it, climate change.
Oh, okay. I see where you're going with this. So AI is kind of like our real life version of a time machine, just focused on the here now.
Bingo. So like we're using both of them to try and wrap our heads around all this uncertainty and find a way forward. And the Technomage, they actually tied all of this to this really fascinating concept. They called it New Romanticism.
Okay, gotta be honest with you. When I first heard that term, I definitely pictured, like, I don't know, robots writing poetry about nature. Not gonna lie.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But it's a bit deeper than that, I promise.
Okay, good.
So it actually goes back to this whole Romanticism movement way back when, which was basically all about pushing back against the whole Industrial Revolution thing.
Yeah.
People were really craving that connection with nature,
Yeah.
that sense of meaning and beauty in a world that was becoming more and more, well, mechanized.
Right.
And what the Technomage is saying is that we're seeing this similar kind of pushback today, but this time it's against like the crazy dominance of technology and, all the real threats we're dealing with, like climate change.
Oh, that makes sense. So with this new romanticism, it's like we're seeing this resurgence of those same desires, right? Like connection, meaning maybe even a little bit of magic, especially in a world that can feel, let's be honest, kind of bleak sometimes.
Exactly. And that's why we're seeing all these themes popping up everywhere. Our stories, our art, even our tech. It's like a reflection of our deepest fears and, yeah, our hopes too.
It's almost like these stories with the time travel and the parallel universes, they tap into something deep inside us, like this need to believe that things could be different, that we're not just stuck on this one fixed path.
100%. And you know what? The Technomage made this really insightful point about how these narratives, even the really dark and dystopian ones, they can actually be kind of empowering in a way.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. When you read a story about a future where climate change has totally ravaged the planet,
Hmm.
it's not just escapism, is it? It's more like this mental rehearsal,
Right.
We're confronting these uncomfortable possibilities, but in a safe space, and it forces us to ask, what can we actually do to make sure that future doesn't become our reality?
Yeah, totally. It's like those stories give us a chance to experience those futures, to make mistakes and learn from them, but without the real world consequences. Hopefully, we can take those lessons and make better choices in our own timeline.
Precisely. And that brings us back to this idea that we're all kind of time travelers in a way, right? Like every decision we make, every action we take, it creates these ripples that flow into the future. We're shaping the world we're going to live in and that future generations will inherit.
Whoa, that's kind of a mind blowing way to think about it.
The big question we're left with is what kind of future are we choosing to create?
Okay, that's pretty deep. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the Technomage and all things time travel and parallel universes, what's the one big takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that these stories, they're not just entertainment. They reflect our deepest anxieties, sure, but also our hopes, our longing to find solutions to these really complex challenges we're facing.
Right.
By exploring these themes in our fiction, in our art, it's like we're engaging in this kind of collective problem solving as a culture, right? We're exploring possibilities, testing out different scenarios, and searching for a way forward.
And maybe, just maybe, those fictional journeys can give us some clues and some courage for navigating the very real journey we're all on together.
Exactly. And on that note, I'd like to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question to ponder. Imagine for a moment if you could peek into a parallel universe where humanity actually did it, where we successfully tackled climate change. What's the one thing you'd be most curious to learn from them? What was the key to their success? The answer might surprise you and could even spark some real-world solutions. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.